This is part one of how I created my dream job, a job that I could work from home, get paid for, and do something that I love.
Hi, it's Sweet Cat Magic and Pippa, and today I'd like to talk about manifesting your dream job because that's what I did. My husband was in the military and we traveled a lot. We traveled and lived in Guam and Scotland and California and on the East Coast, Rhode Island and that, and Hawaii. So we lived many different places. And as a military wife, and he was kind of a higher ranking military member, and he was commanding officer and executive officer of different bases. So I had my own kind of responsibilities and duties as a military wife. So I didn't have a regular job that I could do like most people who would have worked in a bank and grown up in it and become manager and all that. So by the time we finally got settled, and he was going to be transitioning out of the military into another job, and he became a college professor, I decided that it was time for me to go back to work. But what did I want to do? Or get a real job, I guess you'd say. Get a real job, because you don't get paid as a military wife. So I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. And I talked to a friend who was a lawyer and said I wanted to go to law school. And she said, why don't you come and work with me for a while and see if you'd like it? And so okay, that would be a good way to do it. And in the meantime, I'm studying for the LSAT, which is a lawyer entrance exam to get into law school, kind of like SATs. And so when I started working for her, and I took this LSAT LSAT course, this special course that would prepare you to take this, I looked at all of the students who were around there, and I was a little older than most of them, but I was also noticed something that was totally different. They all wanted to be corporate lawyers, and they had all this idea to make big money, and had these dreams of what they were going to do and the controversy and all this. And I realized all I wanted to do was be able to help people. I just thought it should be an easier way of, instead of making everything combative and zealously representing one side and getting into this conflict, I wanted there to be an easier way of doing it. But a lawyer can't represent both parties. It just doesn't work that way. That would be more like mediation or something. So by working with this one lawyer, my friend, I thought that made me decide I did not want to be a lawyer. I saw how lawyers were, and I did not want to be one. And then what I did was I ended up working for a number of lawyers. I quit working out of a firm and started working out of my home, and worked for about 3 or 4 different attorneys, picking up their work, bringing it home, and doing it, preparing it, taking it back, even meeting with their clients in my home. And I would go back to the lawyer and I'd say, okay, now I've put everything together and all this. Would you like to know what I've come up with for the divorce or whatever? And lawyer would reply, no, I just do it, and just, you do it all. He met with them the first and just gave them an intro, turned them over to me, and he would charge them $500, and then he would pay me $15 an hour. And one day it dawned on me that I knew more than he knew, because when I was trying to explain to him some of the things and the computations with child support and all this, he didn't have a clue how to do any of it. Then I decided that, what's wrong with this picture? I think I could cut out the lawyer and they could come directly to me. Okay, so I created a business. And it was one of the very first businesses of that, which was independent paralegal services. And not being shy, I didn't want to have a controversy, so I wrote to the Attorney General office of the state, and I said I had read the statute on the unauthorized practice of law. I felt I was right within the guidelines of it, and was, as long as I advised people that I was not an attorney, as long as I did not represent them or pretended to represent them in court, I could provide them legal information. And so therefore, this was my going to be my business, and I just wanted to run that by them so that they knew what I was intending to do. So they responded and said, send us everything that you've got, your release, all this, so that we can see what you are planning on doing. So I sent it all to them. Heard nothing. A month go by, another month go by, nothing. And then I hear that they have introduced a bill at the legislature to make typing any legal document a felony. And so this was in the 1990s, around that time. I'd have to check. I think it was, about 1990. And that kind of just really ticked me off. That, what? So I gave them all of the stuff, and it was all of like the ammunition that they needed to try to turn what I was doing into a felony. So when I went down to the hearing, I actually went armed with my letter that I had written them and all of their reply back to me, and I testified in front of the state judiciary. I'm lucky that I lived close enough where I could go and do that. And at the time, what was very interesting is that the Deputy Attorney General was there and had stated that when I was testifying, I said, I apologize that this whole bill was introduced because of a letter that I had generated to the Attorney General's office saying what I intended to do. And what had happened was that by writing this bill so quickly, they had made it a felony for even secretaries to type a document. So the attorneys were there to say, please let our secretaries still type our documents. And it was and some members of the bank said, because the way that they had phrased the bill is that only an attorney could draft a legal transaction, could be a part, could draft, write, type. And they wrote, any legal transaction. Well, writing a check is a legal transaction, like a contract. So even some people from the bank were there to protest. That. So when I get up to testify, I said, again, apologizing. And I said, I apologize to all the different groups that were there, the legal secretaries, the paralegal, all of the different groups that were represented there, because I caused this controversy by writing this to the Attorney Generals. Well, the person in charge of the committee said, he started to chastise me and say that he did not believe that little letter of mine could have caused all this. And he thought I was going out of, speaking way out of line to think that I could have generated that. But the miracle of that whole situation was that the Deputy Attorney General, when I said, I had written them a letter and I had never received a response once I provided them all of my information. And almost all of the information I provided is what is addressed in the bill. And what happened is that the Deputy Attorney General did not hear me being chastised by the Senate Committee Chairman, because he was reaching down in his briefcase. And as he's reaching down his briefcase, he says, oh, we did reply, but I have your letter right here. And that just showed everybody in the whole room that truly was what generated the bill. And I just, so the committee chairman was embarrassed because he just chewed me out, and had the Deputy Attorney General had gone down to his briefcase, he would have heard me being chewed out. But instead, he was digging for the answer and came up and exposed. So what happened was that the Senate chairman was very embarrassed because of having chastised me, and then finding out that what I had said was the truth. That he said, well, I'm going to normally we never ever, but what we're going to do is we're going to give you a chance to resubmit the bill, but you're going to work with her, and you're going to make everything that she has said and has on that legal. You're not going to turn it against her. And it was like, whoa! I could just jump up and down. It was like, yay, yay! So I was so excited. So when I left the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, I said to him in the hall, I said, could I get a copy of that letter? Your response to me? And he goes, well, no. And I says, well, I've never gotten a copy. And he goes, this is as close as I've come to ever seeing that there was a reply. And I said, couldn't I get a copy? And he says, no, because that was his only copy. And I said, well, how about if we photocopy it and you keep one and I get one? So anyway, and basically his letter just said that they couldn't rule on that, they had no ruling on it, but they didn't want me to know that. So when I returned home that night, I had gotten a phone call from one of the people on the committee who happened to be an attorney. And this person said that she'd gotten my number off of my testimony sheet, and that she wanted me, because she knew that I was supposed to be working with the Deputy Attorney General to rewrite the bill. And I said, I couldn't believe that. And she says, well, you've got to get him to kill the bill. I said, but it sounds like this is the perfect thing, that, he's got to include that what I do is okay. And she says, that's only the first step. Once it gets past that, the committee will take that out, and you will find that it will be against you again. So get him to kill the bill and not want to introduce it. So what happened was that I ended up calling him every day, because I said, how do I get him not to introduce it? She goes, I think you're a smart woman, you can figure it out. So I came up with, I'll call him every day that I've got a draft for him to read. I'm going to fax him my ideas and changes and everything. And that was like on a Monday, and by Thursday morning he called and said, I don't even want to even approach the bill. We're not going to introduce it. So we had to go the following Monday and sit together. And I was next to him when it came up on the agenda, and he says, the Attorney General's office will not reintroduce the bill. We have decided to just let it go. And so that opened up my whole world for many, many years, and I'll talk more about my paralegal business and how you can manifest that. Even if it's a stumbling block, even if it's against even if you have the Attorney General of the state trying to not let you do it. Okay? And that's what I have to remember when I go back over my life and I go, I have fought little bullies for many times. So anyway, so I'm going to shorten this now and say bye, but go to my next video and I'll tell you about how I manifested the job and how I did that for over 10 years. Okay, part 2.